Hi, Tiger Slash is second here, and today I'd like to talk about Eddie. This is my model Eddie. This is Eddie of the Iron Maiden Cabal, and he is my Talos Pain Engine. This is a really impressive model to me, both from an aesthetic standpoint and when it takes the battlefield. Just what I can do with this in close combat and with shooting. So first I'm going to talk about the model itself, then I want to talk a little about the war gear options it has, and finally I'll talk about the tactics involved, because before I've covered, witches and scourges and Kabbalite Trueborn. This does vary from, bad to, pretty okay. But this, when you're talking about the good stuff with the Dark Eldar Codex, this is where it starts to get really interesting. So the Talos kit is actually shared with the Chronos kit, and this is why it's a little bit expensive. If you're looking at a Chronos kit slash Talos kit, it's going to be costing you about 46, 47 bucks somewhere in there. It's pretty pricey. It's not an inexpensive model, but what you're getting is essentially two models worth of bits, all based on the same torso. So if you can source a torso for these, essentially what you're getting is two monstrous creatures in one kit. You come with a lot of extra pieces, like this right here is an arm for the Chronos. You get extra bits you can stick on there. Tons of extra pieces. You get extra weapons, extra guns, extra fingerling things, which I've glued on to other models. I'll show those in a later video. If you can make a torso from scratch, or if you have a way of sourcing these things, it's really easy to get your money's worth out of these kits and make yourself a whole bunch of really grotesque looking, I don't want to say grotesques, really grotesque looking Talos Pain engines or Chronos Parasite engines, because these things, they come out of the homunculus covens, and just like the homunculus covens are supposed to crawl out of, there's a lot of room to get creative. This is where you want to start looking at your green stuff modeling. This is where you want to start, kit bashing and all that stuff. So guys, there's no real rhyme or reason to the way they're put together. If you look at the way, if you look at the way these guys were put together, back in third edition, they looked like actual scorpions with like Space Marine bits hanging on them. And now they're less scorpionish. They're a little less scorpionish, but I think they actually look better. I was never a big fan of the old, big, fat, pewter metal Taloses. These, I think, look so much nicer. And you get so many options and bits for them. If you want bits to customize your Homunculus Coven's army, you're going to love the kit these guys come in. Like all these little arm pieces right here, you get tons of extra ones, just little bits hanging all over the place. Everything fits together really well too, like you wouldn't expect it. But I had no trouble at all putting this together. I actually built this as a centerpiece model for a 500 point event that I was going to, and it went together in no time at all. It was very straightforward. Everything fit like a glove. Really high quality craftsmanship there. In terms of its size, it's actually a little bit smaller than you would think, especially being the heavy support choice, the monstrous creature. So now let's talk a little bit about its war gear and its stats. The Talos Pain Engine is a monstrous creature, and it comes in at 120 points with weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 3, but toughness 7, strength 7, and initiative 4 with 3 wounds. It has 2 close combat weapons stock, a 3-up save, and it has Feel No Pain built in, so you're automatically getting that 3-up, 5-up. And for its tail, it comes with a twin-linked splinter cannon by default. Even in its basic form like this, it's still 120 points well spent in my opinion. For 5 points, you can give it chain flails, which I did here, and that gives it shred. For 10 points, you could take an Ichor Injector, which gives you Fleshbane and instant death on 6s. This is a pretty useful upgrade, but unfortunately, you're already going to be wounding on 2s most of the time anyway. But that instant death, it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice bonus. And then for 15 points, you can take this twin-linked liquefier gun. Now, it's only, for those of you who don't know, it's strength 3, AP D6, so it changes every time you use it. Twin linked means that strength 3 isn't going to be as much of a drawback because you're rerolling to wound on a twin linked template weapon like this. But for 15 points, it's not really that worth it, especially when you consider that it removes one of its close combat weapons. See, I modeled it here because I think it looks cool. But it removes one of its close combat weapons. So in close combat, it goes from 3 attacks. It goes from 4 attacks with 2 close combat weapons down to 3 attacks base, which, this guy is all about close combat. So you want to get as many attacks as possible, especially because even at weapon skill 5, you're going to find that if you give this thing shred, it's going to wound every single time, but it's going to miss way too many times, way more times than you're going to be comfortable with. So as for its tail weapons, it actually has quite a few options there as well. Right here, I've modeled it with the twin-linked heat lance. Now, most of the tail weapons are going to be twin-linked because it's only ballistic skill 3. This gives you a 75% chance to hit any given target, unless you're firing snapshots. Now, because everything is twin-linked, this makes the Talos a little bit better against things that are invisible and a little bit better against aircraft because you're only hitting on 6s anyway. So I've got the twin-linked heat lance just because this guy likes getting into close combat, and I like the idea of being able to pop open a transport with a single melt-a-shot and then assault the guys that fall out of it. And it's supposed to get in close anyway, so that 9-inch melta range isn't really a bother. The heat lance, by the way, is strength 6, AP 1. It's got an 18-inch range. It's a lance melta, so very useful for cracking armor. It gives a Knight Titan, especially because it's twin-linked, it gives a charging Knight Titan something to think about. The other alternative, like I said, it comes stock with a twin-linked splinter cannon, 36-inch range, twin-linked, very good option base. If you don't have a use for it, just stick with what you got, because that's very nice zone control right there. For 5 points, you could take a stinger pod, and basically that's a 24-inch small blast assault 2. It's strength 5, AP 5. It's good if you're fighting horde armies, but you can't overwatch with a template. With a blast weapon, and I wouldn't take that personally. I would rather take the heat lance. Or if you're one of those people who swears by haywire, you can take a twin-linked haywire blaster on the tail. The thing with haywire, and I'll get to this later, is it's way better if you're taking more of it. Like if you have more than just one option for haywire. So how do you use a Talos unit effectively? This is where things get complicated, my lovelies, because there's a lot of different ways you can use this guy. You see, being a Talos Pain Engine, it belongs to the Homunculus Covens, which means you can take it from both the Dark Eldar Codex and the Homunculus Covens Codex. It means you have to consider what purpose you're going to use your Talos model for before you include it in your list. If you just have a single model, you could just shove it into a heavy support slot in your regular Dark Eldar formation and have it be a backfield babysitter. A single Talos sitting in cover on an objective, being a big scary thing, is almost always going to earn its points as a distraction. The enemy has to either ignore it, thus sacrificing the objective entirely, or expend several times more its point cost in shooting it to take it down. If you equip it with a haywire blaster, or just leave the stock splinter cannon on there, it's going to take pot shots all day long at whatever wanders by and just make a nuisance of itself while it's sitting on the objective. There you go, 120, 130 points well spent right there. However, if you plan on taking more than one, here's where things get really interesting. You see, the power from Pain table in the original Dark Eldar Codex does next to nothing for this thing. You get Furious Charge on turn 4, which makes it strength 8, and you get Rage on turn 6. It's not that great. Feel No Pain effects of the Power from Pain table, they don't stack with what the model already has, and it's already fearless. If you have several Talos, though, you can put them into a homunculus formation. They already have Fearless, and they already have Fear from being a monstrous creature, but they will benefit massively from It Will Not Die, Zealot, and Eternal Warrior. Plus, with Homunculus Coven's formations, enemy units within 12 inches of your own units get -1 leadership, which, that's a nice bonus. And this is, of course, ignoring the obvious two formations you would take these guys in. The first, of course, being the Corpse Thief Claw, and the second being the Dark Artisan. The Corpse Thief Claw is starting to gain a little notoriety in the tournament circuit because it gives you extra objectives by killing extra objective points by killing things in close combat. It's a unit of 5 Talos, kitted out however you want. They have Scout, and anytime they kill an entire unit in close combat, you get an objective point, which for purposes of ITC and Nova usually goes towards the Maelstrom points. It's an expensive formation to run because it's 5 of these things, both dollar-wise and point-wise. But it is incredibly powerful if used effectively, particularly if you're doing a mission such as the Relic. If you have a Corpse Thief Claw sitting on a Relic, your opponent might as well not even bother putting models on the table. Also, you can imagine what happens with this formation if you combine it with, say, a Seer Star, and it's invisible. Yeah. To make this even more overpowered is you can bring this formation with the Dark Artisan formation. That consists of a Talos, a Kronos Parasite Engine, and a Homunculus all in one unit. Now this does a few really important things for you. First of all, the 2 monstrous creatures in that formation, they add 1 to their weapon skill and their initiative, making the Talos initiative 5, along with the Kronos also initiative 5. That's an initiative 5 smash attack. It's pretty nice at weapon skill 6. To make it even nastier, if the Homunculus is your Warlord, you automatically have the Dark Artisan Warlord trait, which allows all Talos and Kronos models within 12 inches to re-roll their 1s on Feel No Pains. This, stacking with a Spirit Siphon on the Kronos, means all your monstrous creatures within 6 inches are going to have a 3-up armor save, and then a 4-up Feel No Pain, re-rolling 1s at toughness 7. Just give your Homunculus a Warlord a Webway Portal, slap the Dark Artisan formation down right behind your Corpse Thief Claw, and drink in the tears. Because it's a nasty formation. Now that's 7 monstrous creatures, but it is a powerful combination to bring. It is, however, very expensive points and dollar-wise. Most tournaments have a 3 detachment maximum, so feel free to do some other shenanigans too. Like I said, Eldar to make it invisible, or hand out rerollable saves, or if you're feeling creative, take some Harlequins and double down on their leadership penalties for like really ridiculous psychic phases with their Phantasmancy. I love the Phantasmancy psychic table. And you can force their Primaris power up, force the opponent to roll 2d6 and multiply it by 2 to determine whether they can actually shoot the Corpse Thief Claw, because Harlequins can do that too. Slap some Haywire Blasters on the entire thing and mow Night Titans down. All sorts of wacky stuff can happen when you're talking about that stuff. But like I said, 7 monstrous creatures and a Homunculus. If you're kitting all this out, you're going to be looking at about 1,000 points for both the Dark Artisan and the Corpse Thief Claw formations. They're very substantial, but these are 2 formations that are consisting of a single unit. Multiple models, single unit, very large units, but mobility is not going to be on your side there. However, if you're clever, you still have about 800, 850 points for a tournament level list. To fill in the gaps with some mobility, and if you make sure you get these guys where they need to go and you're giving them the support they need, they're going to get work done. Now you might be thinking, Tiger Slash, you've been talking about making Dark Eldar lists, and here you are talking about bringing Harlequins along and bringing Craft Worlders along. What is up with this? Talk about making a Dark Eldar list. Well, personally, I got nothing against Craft World Eldar. I like playing them sometimes. And the Harlequins, they have a special place in my heart just because they're so difficult to make work properly, but they look so cool. But yeah, if you want to run an entirely pure Dark Eldar list, it's simple. Bring the Corpse Thief Claw, bring the Dark Artisan formation, and then just bring a CAD Dark Eldar with Venoms. Venom spam. Give an Archon of Venom, take 6 bog standard units of Warriors and Venoms, give them all Splinter Cannons, and have them drive it like they stole it. The major weakness, as I said, is the lack of mobility of the Corpse Thief Claw. and the Dark Artisan. So, what's better than 6 units of warriors, in all of which are objective secured, all in boats that are also objective secured because they're dedicated transports that can deep strike exactly where you need them, and all shooting scads of poison 4 up at 36 inches, no less. If you need something that's going to take objectives really fast and reliably, there you go. And forget target priority, because they can spend all day shooting this formation, which is going to shrug off anything but D weapons. Or they can try to shoot a whole bunch of jinking and flicker fielding venoms, zooming around, scoring objectives left and right with their OBSEC, because no one runs OBSEC anymore. So yeah, that's it for the Talos Pain Engine. It's a nasty unit and a beautiful model. If you want to take the gloves off and hold your own in a tournament level play with Dark Eldar, this is going to be where you want to look. Well, this unit isn't as broken as things like a Decurion with a Canoptic Harvest, or a Scatbike Spam, or a Thunder Stardust and the Bikers from Scars. Fuck the Thunderwolves. This is going to be like a solid contender at any local event. I guarantee if you play it right, you're going to have your opponent like wandering the table from side to side, shaking a fistful of dice and looking concerned as the realization that he has to somehow push several buffed toughness 7 models off the objective starts to sink in. You'll win some, you'll lose some, but if you can fluster them to the point they don't know what's going on because Dark Eldar are worst army in the game, how am I losing? Then you've won the moral victory. And it's really all about the moral victory. Maybe decorate one of their bases with a corpse done up like your opponent's warlord, just to remember the occasion. So until next time, keep playing what you love.